All right. Hope everybody's weekend is off to a great start. Judging the San Francisco Fire Department chili cook-off in just a couple hours. But first, as promised, our 2025 49ers season prediction show. Now, earlier this week, I requested videos of your predictions, and we're going to play those here in just about a minute or two because we got several good submissions. We pick the best ones, and the best ones are going to be played on the show alongside a surprise guest prognosticator. You'll get to see who it is. You could guess right now who the surprise 49ers season prognosticator is. Put it into the chat section, put it into the comment section if you're watching later. Here is the schedule. My prediction, of course, is going to be unveiled here toward the end of things, but we've seen the 49ers move through the first 3 games here in the top row. That is the preseason. Tomorrow is September 7th. 49ers at the Seahawks. I'll be hopping onto a flight to Seattle after the fire department chili cook-off today, and then I'll be off to New Orleans next week. Home openers against Arizona on the 21st. Then on the 28th, Jacksonville comes to town. 49ers first play in prime time at LA on October 2nd. It's going to be a fun year. I really, really think so. Anyway, this is about your predictions right now. Why don't we hear from the fans who submitted their videos? Mike was able to cut up the best ones and put them into a montage. Here we go.
Hey, so for the Niners schedule for 2025, I think the Niners are going to be 10-7, respectable 10-7. They're going to lose some hard games, but I think at the end, winning record.
Hey Dave, Tom Thies here. I got the 49ers coming in 11-6. Can't wait for the 25-26 season to kick off this Sunday.
What's up, David? Dallin here. We're going to do a quick prediction. 12-5 for the season. Go Niners!
17-0.
What's up, you guys? I believe we're either going to go 11-6 or 12-5.
Yo, Niner Empire. Bang, bang, Niner gang. It's Justin here. Let's go 11-6. My final prediction. Let's go.
Hey guys, we got the Niners going 13-4 this season. We're going to lose the opening game against Seattle, but we're going to have big wins against the Texans and the Buccaneers. Go Niners!
This is my 49ers 2025 prediction. I have them going 10-7, making it all the way to the wild card spot and seeing where we go from there. I think that's at least the minimum of what my expectations are this season.
And that was a cameo from Mike himself at the very end. Mike sent me the cut up, and I was like watching it. This is really cool. This is awesome. We're seeing all these predictions from all these different folks. And then, oh, there's Mike with his prediction at the very end. So I heard a lot of winning records there. I heard one of the guys say that he thinks that the 49ers will lose week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. And I went through my prediction for the 49ers game against Seattle yesterday, and we've got it up on the San Francisco Standard right here. I think Seattle's going to win tomorrow 27-24. But I promised you that you might like my season-long prediction a little bit better, and this is why we're doing the show today. I do think that the 49ers are going to give an upstart vibe this year that we haven't had a chance to really enjoy with this team since 2019, right? Because 2019 was the 49ers' big coming out party. They're coming off of 4-12 in 2018 and 6-10, but that was 6-10 in 2017 was with the 5-0 finish when Jimmy Garoppolo got traded over. So, that was a season that went much more roughly than 6-10 for the first 2/3 of it. But it was just such a breath of fresh air for 49ers fans once they hit 2019, just a shot of adrenaline in the arm, right? And they went 13-3. They earned the number 1 seed. They hosted playoff games against the Vikings and the Packers. They destroyed both of those NFC North opponents. They went to the Super Bowl, obviously didn't end up the way that the 49ers or their fans would have liked it to end up, but it was still one of those surges from the bottom to the top, worst to first, if you will, for the 49ers in 2019. And it had that upstart vibe throughout the entire season. You know, people constantly counting the 49ers out, and then they would win, and they would win by big margins. The defense flexed its muscles. The offense really picked up steam as the season went along. And it's one of those vibes that we haven't gotten since, because once you go to the Super Bowl, once you're the NFC champion, there's a target on your back the next year. So the revenge tour is what they try to call 2020. Target on the 49ers' backs. Obviously, that went terribly for San Francisco. They finished the season 6-10. 2021 was a tumultuous year, but the 49ers were still a veteran-laden team, and they ended up squeaking their way into the playoffs in the most dramatic fashion possible in overtime at SoFi Stadium. And then they ended up winning some massive playoff games on the road, first against the Cowboys, then against the Packers. And obviously, they ran out of gas that season against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. But it definitely wasn't an upstart kind of year. That was more of a dramatic year with veterans pulling through when it really, really mattered at deadline pressure for the 49ers. 2022 definitely wasn't an upstart year, because after having made the NFC title the year before, the 49ers came back loaded up. And then they loaded up even further before the trade deadline, trading for Christian McCaffrey. By the end of the season, I think the 49ers were a top 2 team, both offensively and defensively. Unfortunately, Brock Purdy tore his UCL in the NFC Championship game, and I think that's what stopped the 49ers from winning the Super Bowl, because I think with a healthy quarterback, that was the best team in the league. 2023, defense fell off, but you could still argue the 49ers were the best team in the league. They definitely were not upstarts. 2024, they definitely were not upstarts. They were just starting to age, starting to show some cracks there. And then, of course, the injury avalanche did the 49ers in. So you've had several years, a half decade here, of the 49ers being the favorites, looking down on the league, sometimes living up to their status as favorites, sometimes not. More often than not, they lived up to it. But now you're going to have a completely different dynamic in 2025 because of the cracks that showed and sunk the 49ers in 2024. They said renovation is totally needed in 2025. And the salary cap dictated that too. They probably were going to do some version of this regardless of how 2024 ended. But renovation did happen. Over 40% of snaps on the defensive side of the ball need to be replaced. Kyle Juszczyk had a great quote earlier this offseason. He said, you know, we weren't very good last year, so change is actually a good thing, especially on defense, where there were big-time struggles for San Francisco. So you're going to see a lot of fresh faces. By the end of the season, 5, maybe even 6 rookie starters on the defensive side of the ball, and that's going to lend itself to a true upstart vibe here in 2025. And I think upstart vibes are the most exciting, at least to cover, because you've got youthful energy in the locker room. Now, will it be frustrating for fans? At times, I think yes. I think some of the frustrations might start as early as tomorrow. They're going to be growing pains, especially for this defense. Guys are going to be getting used to the NFL nuances, the NFL intricacies, the NFL speed of the game. And that, I think, is never an easy thing. So the delta, the difference between the lows and the highs this year, I think, is going to be larger than it really has been maybe since 2017. And the only reason that there was a big delta in 2017 was because the 49ers had that crazy 5-0 finish. So you went from 0-9 at the start of the year to 5-0 the end of it. You were 1-10 and you finished 6-10. That was the only time in NFL history that had happened. So there were crazy lows and there were crazy highs, but the 49ers never made the playoffs in 2017. It was too little, too late for the 49ers to make the playoffs. This season, I do believe San Francisco is going to be headed to the postseason. So let's take a look at this game by game as I make my 2025 49ers prediction. I do think that they are going to lose tomorrow. Just a prediction. I could be wrong, but that's against Seattle. I do think this opens up 0-1 for the 49ers. I do think they're going to beat the Saints. So the record moves to 1-1 for the 49ers. I do think they're going to win the home opener against Arizona. 2-1. They're going to win against Jacksonville. I see 3-1 for San Francisco. Then I see a loss to the Rams on a short week. And I see a loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the week after that. So 3-1 to 3-2 and 3-3. Now, the week by week predictions, of course, are going to be subject to change based on injuries, based on, you gain new information and obviously you can make adaptations to this stuff. But this is just my overarching look. I think the 49ers will be 3-3 through 6 games of this season. Then they play the Falcons on Sunday Night Football. That's going to be a win, 4-3. Then I do think the 49ers will go on the road and notch a big road win against the Texans. I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle, but it will be an announcement that this 49ers team is on its way, that there's some juice here for San Francisco, especially defensively. I think it's going to happen in Houston, and I think that's going to move the 49ers to 5-3. Win over the New York Giants, it's going to move them to 6-3. Then I think that the Rams coming in, I actually think the Rams are going to get the 49ers here. I think this is going to be one of their, I know it's a funky prediction. I'm just relaying what my gut feeling on the initial schedule is. I think this makes the 49ers 6-4, though, on November 9th loss to the Rams. I think they'll be favored by this point, coming off the wins against Houston and the Giants and the Falcons. But I think they're still going to be young. They're still going to be ripe for a little bit of a letdown at a point. So I do think that the Rams beat them twice in the regular season. But bear with me here. Bear with me, okay? 6-4 for the 49ers after this. Win against Arizona, 7-4. Win against Carolina, 8-4. Then they're going to go to Cleveland. And I think that the 49ers are going to lose to the Browns. It happened when they were there in 2023. I think it's a really tough place to play. I know the Montana-led teams lost to the Browns in Cleveland as well. It just doesn't seem like a particularly hospitable environment with the wind. Everybody can insert their Jake Moody joke here, but I have that as a loss, just as my initial look at the 49ers record. So 8-5, we're going to go after that game against Cleveland. Of course, you can't win or lose the bye week. I think they're going to beat the Titans. 9-5 for the 49ers with 3 games to play. They're going to beat the Colts on Monday Night Football. That's going to move them to 10-5. They're going to beat the Bears back home on Sunday Night Football. That's going to move them to 11-5. And then comes the season-ending game against the Seahawks. Now, I think the 49ers at 11-5 will have a very good chance to win the division despite 2 losses to the Rams. Now, whether or not they have to play their guys will depend on divisional standings at the time. I think that if they do need to play their guys and they are healthy, the season will end with this bookend. They lose to the Seahawks on September 7th, but they're going to beat the Seahawks in Week 18. And that would be 12-5. Now, if they don't have to play hard in Week 18, you never know, right? Then this could go 11-6. So 11-6 to 12-5 would be my initial prediction for the 49ers. As you can see, a blossoming over the course of the season following a 3-3 start. Now, I mentioned I think they're going to lose to the Rams twice in the regular season. I do think that the 49ers will get a grudge match against the Rams in the postseason. I think it's the Rams and the 49ers are both going to qualify for the playoffs coming out of the NFC West. And I think that there's going to be a third matchup in January between the 49ers and the Rams. So, I have my 49ers actual prediction here. I could put it up on the screen. This is going to be for some reason, it's not here. Give it 1 second. We've got to copy and paste. There we go. Save button works. There it is. My 2025 49ers prediction is 12-5/11-6, somewhere in that ballpark. But the key at the end is an exciting playoff run. I think that if you see a grudge match against the Rams, that would be epic in the postseason. Give shades of the 1989 season. 49ers actually won the Super Bowl that year. They beat the Broncos 55-10. They actually outscored their opponents in 89 by a combined 100 points in the playoffs. And part of that was an NFC championship win over the Rams, 30-3. Then the 49ers next played the Rams in the playoffs in 2022 calendar year, 2021 season. And that was a bit harder for San Francisco. They lost down at SoFi Stadium. So maybe, you get best of three kind of thing here. We look back at all these playoff matchups between the 49ers and the Rams. Maybe you'll get a third one this season. But that is my prediction for San Francisco this year. I do think that the schedule is relatively soft. The numbers have suggested that for the 49ers over the course of this offseason. But I do think that they are young. I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a struggle at the start. But if you can stay afloat around 500 through mid-October, then you really start to get into the meat of this. Now, the one game that I predicted to be a win that I would think the 49ers are underdogs in right now, if you could bet the games now, like if you look at the games 2 months from now, I'm sure you can. I wouldn't recommend that because a lot of stuff is going to change. But I think the one that might raise eyebrows and surprise people is the Texans game on October 26th. And obviously, all of these games can go either way. They're NFL games. So, they're as close to toss-ups as any professional sport because this entire league can deliver an upset on any given day. But I just look at this schedule, and I'm zooming in a bit here. This one right in the middle, October 26th, week 8 at Houston, to me just feels like such an inflection point for the season because you have DeMeco Ryans on the other side. You've got CJ Stroud as the quarterback. You've got a good Texans defense. And the 49ers at that point will have had 7 games of runway. So they're not going to be this brand new rookie dominated team anymore. They'll have 7 games of runway under their belt. And if you look at Kyle Shanahan teams, they have typically turned on the Jets in November. So November 2nd is the first official game of November. That's going to be a fun trip to New York. We're going to see Finnerty's out in New York. Did the Juwan Jennings video from Finnerty's earlier this week. But November 2nd is when that calendar officially turns. Can the 49ers turn that calendar a week sooner so they're up for that Texans game on October 26th? I mean, I just see it as a big-time inflection point when you're trying to turn the page from early season growing pains to late season surge. Well, if you can do it against one of the best teams on your schedule from mid-October and beyond, and I think that the Texans are going to qualify for that, that could send a really, really strong message for the 49ers heading into the stretch run of this season. So that's why I'm circling that Texans game on my calendar. Anyway, upstart vibe for the 49ers in 2025. That is my prediction for this season. You could let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'll be happy to hear them. I do want to thank our sponsor for today's show, Chubbies. Are you ready for some football? If you're not, Chubbies is ready to help you with their NFL collection. Whether you're tailgating, grilling, or riding the highs and lows of the game from your couch, Chubbies has the officially licensed NFL gear to keep you looking like the ultimate fanatic. With bold designs featuring your favorite NFL teams, Chubbies game day gear isn't just comfortable, it's a statement. Rep your team's logos in wildly comfortable polos, wave-making swim trunks, and gym-ready mesh shorts. Yeah, you heard that right. Swim trunks with your favorite NFL team's logo on them, all the comfort and swagger you need to take on every touchdown dance, chest bump, or dramatic fourth quarter meltdown. If you're not a jersey guy, this is an elite alternative. If you're a jersey fanatic, something tells me you'll love their NFL collection. Because when you're invested in the game, your outfit should be too. For a limited time, use our exclusive code Lombardi for $10 off at chubbies.com/Lombardi. Yes, that does include the NFL collection. Let the thighs out and let the good times roll. Folks, for a limited time, our friends at Chubbies are giving our listeners $10 with the promo code Lombardi at chubbieshorts.com/Lombardi. That's $10 off your order with the promo code Lombardi, and that includes the NFL collection. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Express yourself and level up your game day wardrobe with Chubbies. It's my 49ers 2025 record prediction. Happy to give it. Happy to answer some questions about it. Let's head on into the comment section. Invader thinks that the 49ers get into the playoffs, they're going to go the distance. Because if they get into the playoffs, they'll presumably be on a hot streak entering the playoffs. And a lot of times the playoffs are determined by who is hot at that time, right? So I don't think that's a terrible thought. And I do think that the 49ers this year have to take that kind of longer, bigger picture approach. Now, they were doing this before, too, when they were a vet-heavy team. But back then, you could expect to stack a ton of wins. Like in 2023, you could stack 5 wins at the start of the season and give yourself a bit of a cushion in case you hit a lull, like the 3-game losing streak that they had. Now, there's going to be a little bit more pressure at the end of the season. It's going to be a little bit more like 2021, although that, injuries really fueled the slow start in 2021. But it's going to be a little bit more like that year where you truly have to find a way to turn on the jets or you'll be eliminated. At 3-3, you'll be sitting there with contention, staring you in the face, but you're going to have to do something about it, right? If the 49ers do start something like 3-3 or 3-4. In 2021, they started 3-5. In 2022, it's crazy. That was a really good team that started 3-4, but they didn't really click until, the Christian McCaffrey trade was huge for the 49ers in 2022, but they also got healthier defensively over the course of that season and then turned on the Jets in staggering fashion and got the job done. Bucks game might be the toughest non-divisional rival game. I predicted a loss in Tampa Bay. That was one of the more impressive wins for San Francisco last season when they went into Tampa Bay and got that done. That was in Christian McCaffrey's return for the 49ers. Remember the rainbow pass from Purdy to Christian McCaffrey. So that was really impressive. But somehow, some way, they gutted through all the problems they had in 2024 to win that game. I know Tampa Bay was shorthanded at receiver in that game. There were a couple games last year where the 49ers really just gritted their teeth and got it done, even in the tough year, right? Seattle comes to mind, 36-24 in week 6, and then Tampa Bay, whenever that was that like week 11 or something? Obviously a little bit later in the season, maybe week 10 in Tampa Bay. They got it done there, but they're going to have to find a way to grit their teeth and get at least one of those tough road games won. And, maybe they can do it tomorrow in Seattle. Maybe the 49ers can surprise me at least and show that they have this capability earlier in the season. Maybe it's going to happen week 8 at Houston. That's the one that I predicted. Maybe it's going to happen in Tampa Bay. Maybe they can get that game on Thursday night against the Rams on the road in SoFi Stadium, since we know it's going to be majority 49ers fans anyway. At some point, you got to deliver in some of these tougher road games. The 49ers in years past have, even in 2024, they got a couple of those big road wins. So we'll see how it goes for them in 2025. Kyle's playoff record is indeed strong. Yes. Purdy has been good in the playoffs as well, but got to get there first if you're the 49ers. Mike says, feels like the Niners have played the Bucks for 4 straight seasons. Well, they played them in 2023. That's when Ayuk caught that bomb from Purdy. Then obviously I talked about the 2024 game. They played him in 2022 because that's when Purdy made his first career start against Tom Brady. So that's 3 straight years that they've played Tampa Bay. This is going to be the 4th. You're right. It doesn't only feel like the 49ers have played the Bucks for 4 straight seasons. They actually have played them for 4 straight seasons. After they play them this year. They've beaten them 3 straight times. Let's put it that way. How good will Micah Williams be setting the edge and helping against the run? Well, I'll tell you what, tomorrow is going to be Exhibit A. We get to find out. So exciting. Everybody, thanks for watching. I do believe the 49ers will be headed to the playoffs. I think some great excitement is ahead of us, but I think some growing pains are ahead of the 49ers as well. One more time, we're going to watch your predictions. Everybody, thanks for sending your predictions in. This was really fun. And thanks to Mike for cutting it all up.
Hey, so for the Niners schedule for 2025, I think the Niners are going to be 10-7, respectable 10-7. They're going to lose some hard games, but I think at the end, winning record.
Hey Dave, Tom Thies here. I got the 49ers coming in 11-6. Can't wait for the 25-26 season to kick off this Sunday.
What's up, David? Dallin here. We're going to do a quick prediction. 12-5 for the season. Go Niners!
17-0.
What's up, you guys? I believe we're either gonna go 11-6 or 12-5.
Yo, Niner Empire. Bang, bang, Niner gang. It's Justin here. Let's go 11-6. My final prediction. Let's go.
Hey guys, we got the Niners going 13-4 this season. We're going to lose the opening game against Seattle, but we're going to have big wins against the Texans and the Buccaneers. Go Niners!
This is my 49ers 2025 prediction. I have them going 10-7, making it all the way to the wild card spot and seeing where we go from there. I think that's at least the minimum of what my expectations are this season.